ဒီနေ့ဒီနေ့ကစခဲ့တဲ့ကိရိတာမနစိတိ7ပါးအဆက်ပေါ်ပြီဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့ဟောဖို့ပါပဲ
Today's talk will be a continuation of the talk on the 10 armies of Mara.
10ပါးရှိတဲ့တဲက9ခုမြောက်ဌိနမိတ်တအကြောင်းဟိုနေ့ကတော်တော်လေးကြည်ကြည်ပြန့်ပြန့်ပြောသွားပါပြီဌိနမိတ်တနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပြောစရာတွေကတော့အများကြီးကျန်နေပါသေးတယ်
In the last talk, Sayadaw dealt with the 5th army of Mara, namely Thinamida, or sloth and torpor, in detail. In fact, there are still lots more to talk about sloth and torpor.
မြတ်ဗျာယောဂီတွေကတော့အဲ့ဒီဌိနမိတ်တကိုတော်တော်လေးတွန်းလှန်ယူရပါတယ်ဌိနမိတ်တတွန်းလှန်နိုင်လို့ရှိရင်တော့မကြခင်ပဲတရားတွေတွတ်တက်သွားပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါမနိုင်သေးလို့ရှိရင်ဒီလိုပဲတော်တော်နဲ့မတွတ်တက်နိုင်ဘူး
တွန်းလှန်ဆိုတာမလဲ
တော်တော်နဲ့မတူတိုးလာမပေါ့တော်တော်နဲ့မတိုးတက်နိုင်ဘူးလို့
တွန်း
ဒီနာမီတလွန်သွားလို့ရှိရင်တရားတွေမကြခင်ပဲတိုးတက်လာနိုင်တယ်မကြွနိုင်တဲ့အတွက်တော်တော်နဲ့မတိုးတက်နိုင်မှဖြစ်နေတယ်
There are some yogis who are still having problems with sloth and torpor. As long as one is unable to overcome this hindrance of sloth and torpor, it will not be quite possible for progress to be made in meditation.
ဒီတော့မဖြစ်နိုင်တော့ဘာဖြစ်လာလဲလို့ဆိုတော့ချက်ထာဘီဒူပေါ့စတိဆိုတာပါလေ6ခုမြောက်တမတော်ကြီးတစ်ခုကဝင်လာတယ်အဲ့ဒီ6ခုမြောက်ဆိုတာကြောက်တာယွန့်တာပါပဲတရားသူကမရပဲဖြစ်နေတော့တောထဲမှာကမ္မထဌာနမှာကြောက်ရွံ့နဲ့ဖြစ်နေတာပါလေအဲ့ဒါလိုဖြစ်တတ်ပါတယ်
Coming to the 6th army of Mara, we have what is called biru in Pali. This actually means fear, paranoia, and can attack a yogi, especially if he or she is practicing in a remote and isolated place.
ဒီနမိတ်တဝင်ရောက်နှိစက်တော့တရားကမထူးတော့သူ့မှာကကမ္မထဆရာကိုတင်ပြဖို့ရာအချက်လက်ကမရရှာဘူးမရတော့ကမ္မထဆရာနဲ့တွေ့ရမှာပထမဆုံးကြောက်တာပဲအခြားကျိုးစားစားနဲ့အားထုတ်လို့ဌိနမိတ်တတွေလွန်မြောက်ပြီးတော့တရားသဘောလေးတွေအတွေ့ကောင်းပြီးရှင်းရှင်းနဲ့တွတ်တွတ်ပြောတတ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များကိုလည်းပဲတွေ့ဆိုရမှာကြောက်နေတာပဲအဲ့ဒီအကြောင်းမျိုးတွေစလာတော့တာပဲ
The yogi who is unable to overcome this great hindrance of sloth and torpor will be very easily attacked by this 6th army of Mara. Firstly, he will be very nervous when it comes to his turn for an interview. Being oppressed by so much sloth and torpor, he's really got nothing substantial to report. That is the first great big fear. On top of that, he feels very inferior and very shy and embarrassed when he comes across yogis who seem to be meditating so well. They're sitting there for hours and they must be really in Samadhi land, and here I am still nodding over. And that is also another fear. Fear of having to meet with fellow yogis who seem to be progressing very well.
ဒီမှာတော့မသိဘူးပေါ့လေဗမာပြည်မှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒီလိုယောဂီပြည်တွေကြုံရတဲ့အခါယောဂီကလည်းများတော့သူတို့ရေသာခိုးနေကြတာတရက်လောက်နှစ်ရက်လောက်မလာပဲသူတို့နေကြတယ်ကမ္ဘာထဆရာတော့သိနေပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုနေရင်ကပဲမင်းမှာများမှာကြောက်တာနဲ့နောက်ဘက်ကနေပြီးတော့လစ်သွားတဲ့ယောဂီတွေလည်းရှိတယ်နေတော့ဆိုချက်တော့ဖတ်ပြီး
Well, Sayadaw was referring to his experience in Burma. At times when there are many students who are participating in a retreat, well, these yogis who are still being oppressed by sloth and torpor take full advantage of the situation. Since there are so many yogis, they think that the teacher, the meditation master, will not notice their absence when it comes for reporting. So what they do is they will slip away for a couple of days and make their absence felt. Well, it's not that the teacher is unaware of their absence, because there's always this list in his hand. But there are some yogis who really feel so bad and so embarrassed that after a few days of missing the interview, they very quietly slip home.
ဥဒိမာကတော့အဲ့ဒါလိုထွက်ပြေးတဲ့ယောဂီရှိတယ်ဆိုတာတော့အခုထိမကြားရသေးပါဘူး
Sayadaw, however, has not heard of any yogis who have fled home here. Not yet.
At the Lutina Meda Malay Chaboya Malay Sada Tina Meda Dorone Majona Dira Yogi got Daya Atui Tibiro Matuba Shini there. Other Daya Atui Matura Kama who sins are descends and sins are music when we are Imagine Doya at Diabo Maleve. You might than the other pillar. Peter Comitancia Ribo Mayo, you might than the other pillar. You are charged at user Adolo to a 2 day yogi upon my level. You might than the other, a new pillar. You might than the other Patavira to Roliti, Jamia, Pishin Bia.
Dividing his time between trying to be aware of sloth and torpor as it arises and other objects of meditation, the poor yogi would not be able to make much progress. His energy is quite expended. And as a result of that, very naturally, he starts to ponder on the situation. He starts to have doubts about his own capability. His self-confidence wanes. He starts to doubt the method of practice. And very slowly, or very naturally, his doubt, of course, will also hover above the teacher. Whether the person who is giving instructions is really competent or not, or whether he understands my situation or not. I'm a special yogi, maybe this doesn't work for me, and so forth. On top of that, he starts to also doubt the very interesting experiences that are related by fellow yogis. I'm not having all these experiences. I wonder if these guys are really telling the truth. These sort of thoughts, lots of doubts about everything that you can think of related to practice.
အဲ့ဒီယုံမတန်တရားဖြစ်လာတာဟာသတ္တမီဝိจิကိစ္စတေဆိုတာပေါ့လေခုနှစ်ခုမြောက်တတ်မှာတော့ပဲအဲ့ဒါကတော့အခြားမဟုတ်ဘူးဝိจิကိစ္စပဲ
So this doubt is the 7th army of Mara.
အဲ့ဒီဝိจิကိစ္စကိုတော့ယုံမတန်တရားလို့ဒီလိုပဲရိုးရိုးပြန်ကြပါတယ်ဒါမှမဟုတ်ဒီထဲမှာငုံနေတဲ့အဓိပ္ပာယ်လေးဖော်ထုတ်ရလို့ရှိရင်တော်စိတ်ဝင်စားစရာကောင်းတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂလိပါပဲအဲ့ဒီငုံနေတဲ့ဟာလေးနည်းနည်းဖော်ထုတ်ရမှာပေါ့
The word in Pali is vichikicha, which is usually translated as doubt. But actually the Pali word vichikicha has further implications. And indeed, a study of the hidden meaning behind this term would prove to be very interesting.
ကြိုးစားပြီးတော့အာမထုတ်တဲ့ယောဂီမှာဌိနမိတ္တတွေကလည်းပဲဝင်ရောက်နှိမ့်ဆက်တော့ယုံနာသဘောမှန်ကအစမသိဘူးလေနီးမှန်ကိုလည်းပဲစဉ်းစားလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်သူ့မှာဒီဟာဟုတ်လေသလားမဟုတ်လေဘူးလားဖိုးလိုဒီလိုပေါ့လေလူယုံမတန်တရားတွေဖြစ်တော့တာပဲစိတ်တွေပြင်မတော့တာပဲဝိจิအထုနီးအမှန်နဲ့သဘောမှန်တွေကိုတဲ့စစ်စစ်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်မမှီတော့ပင်မသွားတယ်အဲ့ဒီပင်မတာဟာဝိသိကိစ္စပါပဲ
The yogi who is being continually attacked by sloth and torpor will not be able to understand the true nature of mind and matter. What more to say of the mechanism of cause and effect? In the absence of a direct knowledge and experience of these insights, he will start to ponder if there is really such a thing as mind and matter, if they in fact are connected by this law of cause and effect. He will start to think and intellectualize and reason and try to figure out his experience in relation to his very immature depth of knowledge, of personal insight. That, of course, will create a lot of exhaustion in him. He will be exhausted by excessive thinking and reasoning, precisely because he will not be able to comprehend what he has not actually seen. So one aspect of vicikicca, the Pali word for doubt, is that of exhaustion of mind that comes about through conjecture and reasoning, because one is unable to make a firm decision.
အဲဒီလိုတန်တရားဖြစ်လာလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကလည်းမငြိမ်တော့ဘူးလှုပ်လှုပ်ရှားရှားဖြစ်လာတာပဲစိတ်ကို तू ကမငြိမ်အောင်လှုပ်ပေးတတ်တာမဟုတ်လို့ကမ္ပနရသလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ် तू ကအဲတော့သဘောမှန်တစ်ခုခုပေါ်မှာအတည်တကျမရှိတော့ဒါမှန်တယ်မှားတယ်ဆိုတာအတည်ပြုမဆုံးဖြတ်နိုင်တော့ဘူးသူ့ရဲ့အချင်းအရာလေးကအတည်ပြုမဆုံးဖြတ်နိုင်တဲ့အခြေအနေရောက်လာတာ
So this doubt that has caused so much reasoning to occur has the function of agitating the mind. It causes a lot of agitation in the mind due to its inability to penetrate into the truth. This will lead to another aspect of vicikicca, and that is the aspect of perplexity, of indecisiveness. One is so confused with all the possibilities that one is unable to make a decision. So this aspect of vicikicca is its appearance. It appears to be that state of perplexity, of indecisiveness.
အတိကမပိုင်သေးလို့အတီးပြုမဆုံးဖြတ်နိုင်ရင်ဟိုလိုလိုဒီလိုလိုနဲ့ပေါ့လေအများကြီး तू ကစဉ်းစားမှုတွေဝင်ပြီးတော့ဤအမျိုးမျိုးတွေယူတတ်တယ်မာနာရောမှားတာရောအကုန်လုံးပါပဲအဲ့ဒါအနေကံစကဟပိစုပ္ပဌာနာလို့ကျမ်းဂန်မြန်မာပြထားတယ်အနေကံစဆိုတာတစ်မျိုးတည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးတဲ့အမျိုးမျိုးတဲ့ဟိုလိုလုပ်ကြည့်လိုက်ဒီလိုလုပ်ကြည့်လိုက်ဟိုနည်းကောင်းလို့ဒီနည်းကောင်းလို့ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီလိုအမျိုးမျိုးတွေလည်းပဲရှောက်ပြီးတော့ယူတဲ့အချင်းရာလေးတွေဖြစ်တတ်တယ်ဘယ်ဟာရဲ့လို့အတီးတကျမဟုတ်ဘူးတဲ့မှာနီးမျိုးစုံနေတာပေါ့လေဘာနဲ့တူလဲဆိုတော့စိတ်ဟာဟိုလိုလိုဒီလိုလိုနီးမျိုးကစုံနေတော့စုံနေတဲ့နီးရလည်းပဲတည်တည်ချာချာတရားနှစ်သာရမတည်သေးဘူးဆိုရင်သိပြီးတော့အရသာမတွေ့တဲ့ပေါ်ပါရီပေါ့လေဟင်းလေးဦးကြီးလိုဖြစ်သွားတယ်
Another facet of its appearance is that because of its indecisiveness, the mind begins to collect all available possibilities, all available alternatives, and all available methods and techniques. One begins to feel that, well, perhaps, all of these techniques are pretty good, they lead to the same goal. If I take a bit from here and a bit from there and I mix it all up, then perhaps, I can get there quicker. So one begins to fall into that trap, fall into that pot of potpourri, chop suey. And because of one's immaturity of insight and lack of experience or depth of experience in meditation, one is incapable of really making a very firm and convicted decision, precisely because of the immaturity of one's knowledge and insight.
ခုလိုဖြစ်ရတာဟာအနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းကိုရှာလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်တကယ်အမှန်တရားကို ရှာဖွေရေးမှာအားနေပြီးတော့တကယ်အမှန်တရားပေါ်မှာမိမိရဲ့စိတ်ကိုပါခေါ်မလဲ adjust လုပ်ပေးလို့ပေါ့အာယောနိဆိုမနစိကာရဆိုတာပေါ့လေနှလုံးသားနေရာမကျလို့ဒီလိုဖြစ်ရတာတဲ့ဒီလိုဆိုပါတယ်
The proximate cause of vichikicha, of this doubt, of this doubting mind, is, it seems, the lack of proper attention, the lack of wise attention. This occurs when there is improper adjustment of the mind, when one is involved or engrossed in the search for truth.
Kiniya thana ma phyauk myauk ji yoma tantiya kin pi do ni ma tai thi aung a thau nai yi atwet pathama song ni man ko nyon pya de saya thai aye chi pare. Da yaung Myat Swa Phaya ka Yatha Bhuta Ñānāya Sattha Pariyasita bo lo di lo so pare. A thau ni a man ne ကိုယ်တွေကသဘောမှန်တွေကိုသိဖို့ရအတွက်နီးညွန်ပြတဲ့ဆရာကောင်းမရမနေရှာဖွေပါတဲ့ရှာဖွေရမယ်တဲ့ဒါဆိုထားတယ်
It is very apparent, therefore, that for a person who is interested in walking on the straight and correct path which will lead to truth and wisdom, he should put all his faith in the hands of a competent and reliable master who has tread the path before. In fact, the Buddha himself said that for one who is intent on finding the truth, a reliable and competent teacher should be sought.
Ni man pya nain de sia le be ma twi thei bu. Pi do ho lo di lo ne ho sa o le ji di sa o le ji pi do bo le. Ma taw do khaw နီးမကြပဲနဲ့ပြုလုပ်တဲ့အခါယုံမတန်တရားတွေဝင်ပြီးတော့တရားနီးလားအမှန်ပေါ်တော့မှစိတ်ပြတ်သွားတတ်တယ်ယုံမတန်တရားတွေဖြစ်သွားတတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒါလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တကယ်ကျင့်စဉ်အမှန်ရရှိနိုင်တဲ့ပฏิပတ်လုပ်ငန်းကိုအနှောက်အယှက်ပြုတတ်တယ်လို့ကျမ်းဂန်များမှာပြထားပါတယ်ပฏิပတ်တိအန္တရာယကာရတရားတဲ့ ပฏิပတ်လုပ်ငန်းကိုဟန်တာတတ်တဲ့အနှောက်အယှက်ပြုတတ်တဲ့တရားဆိုလို့ဒီလိုဆိုပါတယ်
In the absence of, or rather, if one is unable to find a suitable teacher, a reliable or competent teacher, and one is left only with the vast variety of literature on meditation, then one would be faced with a difficult situation. If one is an avid reader, one begins to pick up a lot of information from all the various sources of meditation literature. One begins to have a general knowledge of many methods and techniques of practice, and putting them all together and trying to walk the path by oneself could in fact turn out to be rather risky. In the course of practice, one may not find progress, one may not be able to make progress, and one, of course, will definitely or will naturally be filled with disappointment and despondency and so forth. And also, of course, doubt will arise. And even if one of the methods that one had read about before constituted a real, a correct and straight path, that too would be subject to much skepticism and doubt. That is why the scriptures tell us that vichikicha, doubt, can, or rather is a Dhamma that will cause great danger to the practice of meditation. It is a great obstacle to one's progress.
အဲ့ဒီလိုစိတ်ဟာနိမန်ပေါ်နဲ့နိမန်တိုင်းအားထုတ်လို့တွေ့နိုင်တဲ့တရားအမှန်တွေပေါ်မှာအတည်တကျမရှိဘဲနဲ့ဝိလေလေဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ဥသိကိစ္စတွေဖြစ်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ဟာလည်းပဲမနှုညံ့တော့ဘူးကြမ်းလာတတ်တယ်အဲလိုကြမ်းလာတဲ့အခါမှာကောဓခေါ်တဲ့ဒေါသတွေလည်းပဲဖြစ်လာတတ်တယ်ယုံမှမှုတက်တက်တင်မဟုတ်ဘူးဒေါသတွေလည်းပါလာတတ်တယ်
When one is unable to follow instructions carefully, one is unable to practice according to the right technique, then naturally one will be unable to gain an understanding, a personal, intuitive, and real understanding into the true nature of phenomena. When that happens, not only is doubt present, or not only will doubt arise, but the mind also becomes very hard and stiff. It becomes attacked by koda, a Pali word meaning aversion and associated mental states.
အဲ့ဒီလိုပိုင်းရောက်လာလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကိုသူကခက်ထအောင်ကြမ်းတမ်းအောင်ပြုလုပ်ပေးတတ်တာမဟုတ်လို့ခြေတော်ခိလခေါ်တဲ့တရားစု၅မျိုးလည်းပဲဝင်လာတော့တာပဲအဲ့ဒီခြေတော်ခိလဆိုတာစိတ်ရဲ့ညှောင့်တဲ့တဲ့ဖွယ်ပေါ့လေပฏิပတ်တိလုပ်ငန်းကိုဟန်တတ်တဲ့တရားစုတွေပေါ့အဲ့ဒါကြီးဝင်လာတယ်
This koda or aversion will make the mind pretty hard and rigid. The mind that is hard and rigid can be likened to a thorn. And at that point it is said that the yogi is being pricked by the thorny mind.
အဲ့ဒီတရား၅ပါးကတော့ဗုဒ္ဓီကံကတိဆိုတာပါလေနီးမှညွှန်ပြတဲ့ဘုရားဘုံမှာလည်းပဲယုံကြည်တာတည်းယုံမှတ်တန်တရားတစ်မျိုးတဲ့ဓမ္မေကံကတိတရားတော်ဘောတရားနီးလမ်းပေါ်မှာယုံမှတ်တာကတစ်မျိုးတဲ့သံဃေကံကတိမြတ်စွာဘုရားဆုဆုံးမတဲ့အတိုင်းကိလေသာတစ်စိတ်တစ်ပိုင်းငြိမ့်သူတော်တော်ငြိမ့်သူလုံးဝငြိမ့်သူအငါတို့ပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲယုံမှတ်တန်တရားတွေဖြစ်လာတတ်တယ်တဲ့ပြီးတော့မိမိကျင့်သုံးရတဲ့အကျင့်သိက္ခာပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲရှိဥစွာယုံမှတ်တန်တရားတွေဖြစ်ပြီးတော့အခြားခြားကျင့်သုံးနေကြတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များရဲ့အကျင့်စဉ်လုပ်ငန်းတွေပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲယုံမှတ်တန်တရားတွေဖြစ်လာတတ်တယ် Bây giờ cô cái này mà chả lo cô bé cái lúa mà đi về này xây à bao quên bỏ đi mình này ở trên tàu này đến tàu mò đi bỏ tập sắp mà trả đi sự cái đi rồi đó bỏ đi dùng mà tận đi lấy phiền là đấy đi dùng mà tận đi ngã miêu quên bây giờ xây đi lấy
There are 5 aspects to this thorny mind, and all of them refer to doubt. The thorny mind, or the mind, is pricked by thorns of doubt. Doubt regarding the Buddha as the great master who showed the path to enlightenment. Doubt on the Dhamma, the actual path that leads to liberation. Doubt on the Sangha, the noble ones who have uprooted some or all of the kilesas. There is doubt on oneself, doubt on one's own morality, one's own method of practice, technique of practice. And as a result, also doubt on the technique and method used by fellow Dhammafarers, fellow yogis. The 5th aspect of this thorny mind is that of doubt with regard to our fellow Dhammafarers, including one's teacher. And when these 5 aspects of the thorny mind is present, then the yogi becomes filled with anger.
အဲ့လိုအခြေအနေမျိုးရောက်လာလို့ရှိရင်ချိန်မီတတိယလို့ပြုပြင်နိုင်သေးလို့ရှိရင်တော့နည်းနည်းတော်သေးတယ်တင့်တော်တဲ့နည်းနဲ့မပြုပြင်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ဝိသိကိစ္စဟာအနဲ့တစ်မျိုးပြောင်းသွားတယ်အဲ့ဒီနဲ့ကတော့အခြားမဟုတ်ပါဘူးဝိကင်းသောจิကိစ္စအတိပညာရိဟုသောစေကုမှုဒီလိုဆိုထားပါတယ်ကင်းကွာသောပညာရိဟုသောစေကုမှုဒီနေရာပြင်ပညာရိဟုသောစေကုမှုကင်းကွာသွားပြီတဲ့ဝိသိကိစ္စပညာနဲ့သာကုသလို့ရတာတခြားဟာနဲ့ကုသလို့မရဘူးပထမဆုံးအကျဉ်းစားမြတ်မြတ်တာစဉ်းစားပြီးတော့ဆင်ញင်တုံနဲ့ကုသရမယ်နောက်လက်တွေ့ကျင့်သုံးပြီးတော့သဘောမှန်နေအစဉ်သိအောင်ပြုလုပ်ခြင်းအပြင်ကုသပေးရမယ်အဲ့ဒါလိုအတိကင်းသွားပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ကုသလို့မရတော့ပါဘူးအဲ့လိုပညာရိဟုသောကုသမှုကင်းတာမလို့သူ့ကိုဝိကတာจิကိစ္စဝိကတာကင်းသောจิကိစ္စပညာရိဟုသောကုသမှုဝိจิကိစ္စကင်းသောပညာရိဟုသောစေကုသမှုတဲ့ပညာရိဟုသောစေကုသမှုကင်းသွားပြီကုလို့မလွယ်တော့ဘူးတဲ့ဒီလိုဆိုပါတယ်
At such a point, the situation is still redeemable. It's still somewhat workable. If one is able to convince the yogi through persuasion, through coaxing, then he might still be led on to the right path again. Failure to do this, however, will result in another aspect of vicikicca, of doubt, and that is the incurable aspect. In Pali, in an English translation of the Pali gives vicikicca, or doubt, as that state which is abundant by the medicine of wisdom and knowledge. It seems that vicikicca, or doubt, can only be cured through wisdom, through knowledge. One could start with a very fundamental level of knowledge, in the sense that one could reason out and talk and try to convince the yogi in terms of words, in terms of reasoning. If that is workable, then the yogi may be able to get back to practice, and through the course correction that he's been able to make, he will perhaps be able to gain some knowledge, may be able to experience some insight into the true nature of reality. Now, this insight into the true nature of reality is a personal experience, and therefore constitute a higher level of medicinal knowledge or wisdom that can further relieve the yogi of doubts. If these two approaches still prove to be futile, then the poor yogi would be abandoned, so to speak. He would be in a state of being abandoned by the medicine of knowledge and wisdom.
အဲ့ဒီလိုသိကြတဲ့ဆေးမျိုးပညာရိဟူသောဆေးကုသမှုမျိုးရဖို့ရအတွက်ကတော့သိလိုတာမဟုတ်လို့ဘုန်းကြီးများဟာယခု IMS 3လစခန်းမှာပေါ့လေဘုရားဟောမိန်တဲ့အတိုင်းဝိဒုနန္ဒကျေးဇူးရှင်ဆရာတော်ဘုရားရဲ့ဩဝါဒအရဘုန်းကြီးများညံမိသမျှပေါ့လေဒီတဏှာနဲ့ကိုက်ညီအောင်ပေါ့တတ္တတရားနှိုးပေးတဲ့အနေနဲ့တင့်တော်တဲ့တရားလေးတွေဒီလိုပဲဟောပေးနေရပါတယ်
realizing the importance of this medicine of knowledge and wisdom in the treatment of doubt, of vicikicca, Sayadaw has come to the United States. He has come with a very humble and sincere wish of wanting to cure this sickness of vicikicca by giving you Dhamma talks every evening based on the Dhamma of the Buddha, based on the teachings of the Buddha, and also following the tradition of the late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. He is trying his level best as far as his wisdom can take him in trying to provide this service to all of you.
အဲ့ဒီလိုဟောကြားတဲ့အချက်တွေကိုမျှမျှတတဘယ်နှကျွန်းတို့နဲ့စိတ်ထားတွေအခြေခံရှိပြီးတော့နာကြားကြတော့မတည်သေးတဲ့ဟာတွေသိရတယ်။တိပိသားဟာတွေလည်းပဲထပ်ပြီးတော့မ ကြားဘူးသေးတဲ့ဟာတွေလည်းထပ်ပြီးတော့ကြားရတယ်တချို့ယုံမတန်တရားဖြစ်နိုင်တဲ့အချက်တွေလည်းပဲကြားရတော့ယုံမတန်တရားတွေလည်းကင်းသွားတယ်ပြီးတော့တချို့အချက်တွေမှာအယူဆလွဲမှားတာရှိလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲအယူဆတွေတဲ့သွားတယ်ပြီးတော့တရားနာကြားတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲစိတ်တည်ကြည်တယ်အထူးအားဖြင့်ကိုအားထုတ်လို့တွေ့ကြုံချက်တွေနဲ့ကိုက်ညီသွားပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ထူးထူးခြားခြားကြီးကိုလိုက်လှဲတတ္တတရားတွေဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ကြည်လင်းလာတာအဲ့ဒီအကျိုး၅မျိုးလည်းပဲရရှိသွားနိုင်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီအကျိုး၅မျိုးရရှိညှော်ရှုပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေတတ်နိုင်တယ်များဘုန်းကြီးတို့တရားဟောရပါတယ်
The Dhamma talks given every evening by the Sayadaw help to fulfill 5 functions. The first is that you are given the opportunity to be able to listen to certain aspects of the Dhamma which you might not have had access to before. Secondly, you may be able to consolidate your knowledge of the Dhamma if you have in fact already heard of the subject, heard of or read of or studied the subject before. Thirdly, the Dhamma talks could provide the chance for you to clear your doubts. You may have certain doubts about certain things, certain aspects of the Dhamma, and you may find that your doubts could be cleared in the course of attentively listening to the Dhamma talks. Fourthly, one may have certain views and preconceptions, certain preconceived ideas and pet philosophies regarding the Dhamma. And these could also be corrected if you only allow yourself in the course of listening attentively and respectfully to the Dhamma of the Buddha. Finally, and perhaps most fulfilling, is that you may be able to tally your own experiences with what is being described during the Dhamma talk. For those of you who have had deep practice or who are having deep practice, listening to the Dhamma talk can in fact be a very joyous and rapturous occasion to be able to realize, to be able to discover that your personal experience really conform to the theory. It is because of these benefits that the Sayadaw is making this effort to give you evening talks.
အဲ့ဒီလိုတရားနာကြားလို့ပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်ထိုက်တန်သမျှအားထုတ်လို့တရားသဘောလေးတွေတွေ့လို့ပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်ခုနစိတ်ရဲ့ညှောက်တဲ့ဘွယ်ဖြစ်တဲ့စီတောခိလတရားတွေလွန်သွားပြီးတဲ့နောက်ပိုင်းမှာစိတ်ရဲ့အနှောင်ဖွဲ့တရားတွေကိုလည်းပဲဖြတ်တောက်ပေးဖို့သိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်
This thorny mind can be gotten rid of. One can get rid of the thorny mind through listening to discourses or through the course of one's own practice, through one's own personal experience. When one is able to do that, one would also automatically be able to clear the mind of what is known as mental fetters.
Kunagumya Tatama Kilida Avijikesa Sitane Padavido Pyogura Mahopa Davalo Sidokila Dea Ngavani Sesanida Peta Sito Unibana Dea will ever set Pioma Temelu Tilutina Nemolu Ungamu Sepiodava.
This Ceto Vinibanda in Pali, which can be translated as the fetters of the mind, is not directly connected to the subject of Vicikicca, the seventh army of Mara, but because it has a direct relevance to the preceding topic of the thorny mind, Sayadaw feels that it would be quite appropriate to talk about it some.
Edi Ngamyurega Patama Musagaro Kamagunai Kimi Twetamu Miaji Ningo Jago Nago Yadago Titwi Goni Mawali Daribo Twetari Miara.
The first mental fetter is that of being chained to the numerous objects of the senses, of sights and sounds and smells and tastes and tactile objects and thoughts and so forth. Mimi Kubo Mavali, Tamem Kimidwedam Aji, the Church of Boguri, Solution, Kugu Boku, Chite, Kugu, Kindwede, the Yuyare. The Yualo Ajida, the show Sonzavi, Atutine, Payola Luci, Musonzajino, Yare, Namale Chaute, Timale Chaute. Kugu, Kindwem, Gija, Kindwem. Chito Unibana Tiaga Puerto Taro Masonzaro Payotare. The second is the chain of being over-attached to one's own body. There's too much love for oneself. That can be a very significant hindrance in the course of practice. Invariably, when one sits for some length of time, unpleasant sensations will arise, and some are pretty severe, very intense. And you watch, and they get pretty intense, and they get more and more intense, and more severe, and you start to think about your poor leg. And you begin to think whether you're going to walk again. And you have so much consideration for your body that you're unable to be courageous enough, bold enough to see through the actual nature of pain. Jojo Palomia Gogo, you are the lesson. Tiane Yogi Pine Yoni Roma Mika Lini Jabuko, Samentani Jabuko Malaya Matayaro, Palulu Nebo, the Kugu Viro, Teatro Mapiona. Era ha Gogo, Tuetamu Miade, Suravoli, Piapare. Another gross example or extreme example of one who is over-attached to his or her body is that of a yogi who is in the habit of paying a lot of attention to personal appearance. When one arrives at the meditation center, one is aware that makeup and associated activities will not be quite appropriate in such a place. Nevertheless, in the course of meditation, because one is so used to makeup and putting on a very impressive appearance, one may feel at times in the course of meditation as though something is not quite right, something is missing somewhere, and that could be a cause of concern that could disrupt one's practice.
ပြီးတော့နောက်တစ်ခုကကိုခင်မင်တွေ့တာမှုမလုံလောက်လို့အခြားအပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲခင်မင်တွေ့တာမှုတွေအားကြီးတာလည်းရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါလည်းပဲစိတ်ရဲ့အနှောင့်အယှက်တစ်ခုပဲခြားရပေါ်မှာခင်မင်တွေ့တာတယ်ဆိုတာတော့တိပိသားဖြစ်လို့ဘုန်းကြီးကတော့ထပ်ပြီးတော့မရှင်းတော့ပါဘူး
Not only can one be so attached to oneself, but this attachment can be projected to another person. One becomes overly possessive, overly attached to another person. And this, of course, needless to say, would be a great hindrance in the course of practice. As this is a common phenomena, Sayadaw feels that it will not be necessary for him to elaborate.
ပြီးတော့လေးခုမြောက်ကတော့အလိုရှိတိုင်းဝမ်းပိုက်ကားအောင်လို့စားကျင်နိုင်စားအဲ့ဒါလို့စားကျင်နိုင်စားပြီးတော့ဆေးရဆုခဆိုတာပေါ့လေအိယာပေါ်မှာအိတ်တာတစ်ဖက်ကညောင်းလို့ရှိတစ်ဖက်ပြောင်းပြီးတော့ပတ်စဆုခဆိုတာယူတာပြီးတော့မနေ့မိုးလင်းတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲထားချိန်မထားပဲနဲ့အိယာပေါ်မှာပဲမျက်စိလေးမှိတ်ပြီးတော့ချမ်းသာနေတာစားတော့ပြီးတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲအိယာပေါ်မှာလို့မှိတ်ပြီးတော့နေတာမျိုးပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါမျိုးကလည်းပဲတရားရဖို့ရာအတွက်စိတ်အနှောင်ဖွဲ့ကြီးတစ်ခုပဲဒီလိုဆိုရတယ်
The fourth fetter of mind is that of being chained to food. Some people can get caught in food trips very easily. They like to eat a lot and they just eat whenever there is a desire to do. They follow every whim and fancy of their mind. For such people, because they are continually seeing to the satisfaction of their belly, their bliss or their happiness is to be found in sleeping. There is three types of bliss. There is the sleep bliss, and there is the adjusting the posture bliss, and there is the dozing bliss. It's very obvious that for such a yogi, not much progress can be made in meditation.
ဘယ်တိုးတက်တော့မလဲထိနာပိတာအားပေးတဲ့အလုပ်တွေသူကလုပ်နေတာကို
How is it possible for any progress? He is only giving full encouragement to sloth and torpor.
ချိုးလည်းပဲဒီဌာနကအစားအစာတွေကျွေးတော့ကိုယ်လေးချိန်တွေပါတက်လာပြီးတော့ထိခိုက်မှကြောက်လို့ပေါ့ဒီစိုးရိမ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေလည်းပဲရှိပါတယ်ယောဂီတွေက
There are even some yogis here who are quite concerned about their weight, and they come into meditation and they eat, and they suddenly realize that they're gaining weight, and they start to be over concerned about not getting enough exercise and so forth.
ပြီးတော့နောက်ဆုံးကတော့အခုလိုသီလအကျင့်အစရှိတဲ့အကျင့်ကျင့်ရတာဟာပန်းတိုင်ထားရမှာကတော့ Xin khả tí nì nhé ya bán này thai à mà. Ấy lúc bán này thai à mà sao? Nà bùa lâu ya đồ bà bí sâu bí đó bò lì tức lâu nè chỉ nà tin đi ra. Ấy lúc chỉ nà tin đi bí đó lô xin lẽ về xin nhé ya tụ mấy giàu đó. Xin nè về tô nì ra về. Bà phía lê sau đó bà phía bà lâu để chán đà lì của tụ à mi yếu để tao bỏ xí đó. Ấy đi xí đâu có đi uni bà nà tìa cả tụ trông nòng thà ra về. Mà lâu này nó.
Xí bảo miêu lên.
Nà bùa đồ bà đồ miêu lên nào. Bùa đi miêu lên bí đó. Chuyện nào.
No, Pinsama.
No,
The last fetter of mind is that attitude of mind present in a yogi. Now, this particular yogi is interested in practicing meditation not because he or she wants to be enlightened in this life, but because he or she is thinking of the Deva world. One is meditating so that one can gain enough merits to be able to enjoy the satisfaction and bliss of the heavenly planes. And this also is a great chain, a great fetter of mind that would disrupt progress in meditation.
Yes, I've heard. See, Dogila told them a dealing hotel. Bikuru meet a yogi ha, good yoga. See, Dogila Diangava Guleve, Mapena. See, Dogini Dia Guleve, a piat down Namusoye, Buddha Dadanama, 2 day. Jiwabu a Jaumashi would see them have any moments a day or now. Tiro Edisido Killa Tiangava, Nesido Nibana, Tiangava Boli, Tanazo, Pesha, Pet of Nayavi, Siakati, Yote, Tea, Juza, Puamia, Atu Nayava, see, look like Toye, Tini, Tea, Sota Lepa.
The Buddha said in the sutta that for a bhikkhu or a yogi who is unable to overcome, to pull out these 5 types of thorny mind, and who is unable to free himself of the 5 fetters of mind, he will not find progress or development in the Dhamma. The implication, of course, is that for such a person, suffering will be his companion. Sada hopes that all of you may be able to pull out the thorns of mind and also break free from the fetters of mind, and thus be able to make progress in your meditation.